Welcome back, Bucs fans, to another edition of Pewter Report Presents All 22 Film Room. I'm Josh Queipo, and we are about 12 hours after the Bucs kicked off their Germany game against the Seattle Seahawks in what eventually became a 21-16 victory for Tampa Bay. And I wanted to highlight just a single play from the game, but it was a really cool play when you look at a tendency that had been developing over the course of the entire season for the Bucs. It's a tendency that I actually highlighted on an article that I wrote for Pewter Report back on Friday before the game. And we'll kind of dive into what was it that I highlighted, and then how did this one play kind of bring it all together. So we'll start here with Dallas. So basically, the Bucs have been developing a tendency in their play calling over the course of the season, where on second and medium to long, say second and 5 to second and 10, they have, for a significant percentage of their plays, decided to run screens, whether that be wide receiver screens, running back screens, tunnel screens, smoke screens, just a whole lot of screen game, to the tune of almost 40% of the time when they're in second and 5 to 10 that this was happening. And so you'll see it started in Dallas. Here's this out of a pony package to Rachaad White. And then the following week, you can see against New Orleans to second and 9, Cam Brayton motion. And there it is to Russell Gage. The following week against Kansas City, this is probably the most successful one that we'll see in this compilation here. Leonard Fournette getting it, moving upfield. This went for over 20 yards. A couple weeks later against Atlanta, this will go to Chris Godwin. Quick bubble screen. Carolina, second and 8. And you can see this trend developing. It's happening almost every single week. And unfortunately, with the exception of that big one in Kansas City to Fournette, it hadn't been generating a ton of success for the Bucs, averaging only about 4 yards per play in these specific situations. You can see that one went for nothing against Baltimore to Mike Evans. And it really came to a head against the Rams last week when the Bucs went with a screen on second and medium to long, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times. And you can see it started with this one to Fournette. This one was kind of creative because the Bucs hadn't really run one up to the middle like this before. So they were able to generate some success there, but less success on this next one to Godwin. And you'll see one to Perryman here. Didn't go for very much. And it really came to a head on this next one to Godwin. And this is second and 6. I'm sorry, this one, this was to Julio Jones. Julio Jones kind of screwed it up because he didn't fully go in motion. And then this is the one where it comes to a head. I apologize. So Godwin in motion, and you're going to see the Rams edge defender checks Godwin right there. He just turned his head just for a second because he wants to see where he's at because he knows what's coming. You can see he bends out and he almost picks it off. So this tendency is something that defenses definitely picked up on, and it almost landed the Bucs with a pick 6 against them. All right. So in my article, I talked about how this was becoming too much of a trend. Teams were starting to pick up on it. You could see the Rams had a good inclination that it was going to happen. And this is where you really need to come with a counter. If you're going to create a tendency, you have to be able to counter it so that the opposing defenses can't key in on it and do something like the Rams did. And you know what? The Bucs, they countered it. So this was a second and 9 in here against the Seahawks, and you can see the Bucs are split out 11 package, 3-by-1 off to the field side here, and Julio Jones looks like it's going to be a screen to him. Brady even pump fakes it, and you can see burned all 3 of these Seattle defenders. They were keying in on it, and the Bucs, this was designed to take advantage of that. That Seattle would be looking for that tendency because you can see Evans on the slot fade just wide open, easy 11 yards. There's been a lot of criticism of Byron Leftwich this year. I think a lot of it has been warranted. There has been a lot of predictability to the play calling. This is the type of play calling that you want your offensive coordinator to have. You wish that maybe the setting up this uh, losing my train of thought here. Setting up this tendency didn't take so long to come up with the counter that it took 10 weeks and 13, 14 of these over the course of the entire season, where it almost turned into a pick last week. But that's a really cool counter that the Bucs created off of a tendency they knew they were starting to show. So really cool thing there. I thought it was really fun to point out to all of you Bucs fans and really kind of key in on. So I hope you enjoyed it. For Pewter Report, I'm Josh Queipo. This has been an All 22 Film Room